Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling a universal, honestly, deeply frustrating struggle that pretty much every student and lifelong learner out there faces. You know the drill. You sit down, you grind out a study session for hours, you read the entire chapter, but the absolute second you close that book and try to remember what you just read, it's gone. Your mind just goes totally blank. And it feels like a personal failure, right? Like maybe you're just not trying hard enough, or you naturally have a bad memory. Well, actually, scratch that. Today, we're going to look at the real science of memory, diving into Dr. Tanu Jain's brilliant insights on the topic. We're going to decode exactly why you forget things, and way more importantly, how to systematically ensure you never forget what you study ever again.
All right, let's jump right into our roadmap for today. We'll be going over the reality of forgetting, the science of our memory, and the brain's save button. After that, we'll break down the power of spaced revisions and active recall before wrapping the whole thing up with the ultimate learning formula.
Starting off with Section 1, the reality of forgetting.
Okay, the most crucial thing you need to grasp right off the bat is this. Forgetting is not a bug in your system, it's a feature. We really need to stop viewing the natural process of forgetting as some sort of personal failure or a lack of intelligence. It is just your biology acting completely normally. And the Ebbinghaus Forgetting Curve illustrates exactly what this biological process looks like. Honestly, it's a little terrifying how fast our short-term memory just evaporates. Look at the numbers. Just 1 single hour after you read something, 50% of that information is already gone from your brain. Within 24 hours, over 70% simply vanishes. And if you go a full week without doing anything with that new information, a staggering 90% of what you studied is entirely erased. You're left with, at best, a really fuzzy idea of what the topic was even about.
So why does this happen? Well, it's because of the brain's default setting. Your brain's #1 goal is to preserve energy. Maintaining neural connections takes actual physical energy. So if your brain takes in information that doesn't have a strong emotional tag attached to it, or it doesn't think it'll need to use it again anytime soon, it just dumps it. It literally tosses it right into the biological trash bin to save power. When you're passively reading a textbook, your brain takes it into short-term memory, realizes it's taking up valuable space, and just quietly deletes the whole thing. Moving right along to Section 2, the science of our memory.
To actually stop this automatic deletion process, we've got to understand the machinery up there. We need to look at the distinct regions of the brain that handle capturing, processing, and retaining all this info. This breakdown demystifies the biology of learning, showing us 4 major players. First up is the hippocampus, which acts as the converter, turning short-term memory into long-term memory. Second, the amygdala. This one handles emotional tagging. It tells your brain whether an experience felt good, bad, or even triggered guilt, which heavily helps make memories stick. Third is the prefrontal cortex, which is the zone you use for active recall, basically helping you pull facts and info back out on demand. And lastly, sitting at the back of the brain is the cerebellum, which stores skill-based memories, stuff like how to ride a bike or write with a pen. Which brings us to Section 3, the brain's save button.
Out of all those regions we just talked about, we are going to focus heavily on just one. Because for students, exam aspirants, and lifelong learners, this is absolutely the most crucial organ in your head, the hippocampus. Now, neurobiologists know exactly how important the hippocampus is because of a very famous, albeit tragic, medical case known as patient HM. He suffered a severe injury to his hippocampus, and after that injury, he could remember his past and he could hold a totally normal conversation in the present, but he could no longer form any new long-term memories, none at all. This case proved definitively that without the hippocampus, long-term memory creation is literally impossible. It is the ultimate gatekeeper.
You can think of it like this. Imagine an unsaved temporary file in your computer. You type out this brilliantly worded essay, but if you don't hit save and the power goes out, it's gone forever. That is exactly what happens in your brain when you just passively read a book. The information is sitting in RAM, short-term memory. But when you actively trigger the hippocampus, it acts exactly like clicking the save button on your computer. It writes that data permanently onto your hard drive as long-term memory. The takeaway here? If you want to remember what you study, you have to manually click that save button.
All right, Section 4, the power of spaced revisions. So how exactly do we manually hit that biological save button? Science gives us 2 highly effective methods, and the first one is spaced revision. Your golden schedule for this looks exactly like this timeline. When you study a chapter on day 1, you can't just leave it and expect it to stay there. You have to review it at specific, calculated intervals. You look at it again on day 3, then again on day 7, then day 14, then hit it again at the 1-month mark, and finally at 3 months. By deliberately intercepting the forgetting curve at these exact intervals, you are systematically strengthening the neural pathways in your brain.
I absolutely love this analogy that Dr. Tanu Jain uses to explain this. Imagine walking into a super dense, grassy forest where there is absolutely no path. The first time you walk through, you push the tall grass down, right? But as soon as you pass, the grass springs right back up. The path disappears completely. But what happens if you walk that exact same route on day 3, and then day 7, and day 14? Eventually, the grass just stops growing back, the plants get cleared away, and a permanent, visible dirt path forms in the forest. That is precisely what spaced revision does to your neurons. It creates a permanent neurological trail that your brain can easily travel down when you are sitting in a high-pressure exam hall.
Let's dive into Section 5, Mastering Active Recall.
Now, spaced revision on its own is incredibly powerful, but it gets completely supercharged when you combine it with our second key technique, active recall. This is where you truly take control of your study sessions. The absolute biggest mistake students make is just endlessly rereading their notes. Stop doing that. When it is time for your day 3 or day 7 revision, do not just open the book and let your eyes lazily glaze over the text. You need to use active methods. Close the book entirely and try to write down everything you can remember on a blank piece of paper. Solve previous year questions. Take quizzes. Use flashcards. When you force your brain to struggle and physically pull information out from within, you are actually tricking your amygdala. The amygdala suddenly tags this information with importance, and it sends a signal right to the hippocampus saying, hey, we keep trying to retrieve this. It must be crucial for our survival. Save it permanently. Active recall is the literal trigger for the save button.
And what's genuinely fascinating about all this is that it isn't just some modern scientific discovery. This cutting-edge neuroscience of spaced revision and active recall actually aligns perfectly with ancient Vedic wisdom. In ancient traditions, they heavily utilized shruti, which is the practice of repeatedly listening to and repeating information, which is essentially spaced revision. And they always paired it with smrti, which is the capability of deep retention and active recall. Using multiple senses, writing, speaking, and actively trying to remember has literally been the blueprint for deep learning for thousands of years.
And finally, Section 6, the ultimate learning formula.
Okay, so we've covered the biology, the save button, spaced revision, and active recall. Let's synthesize all of this into one single, actionable formula that you can start using today. This is Dr. Tanu Jain's highly effective LLP formula. It stands for Lecture, Learn, Practice. Step 1 is lecture. You attend the class, you listen closely, and you take in the initial information. Step 2 is learn. You take the time to actually understand the concepts, digesting the material so it makes logical sense to you. And step 3 is practice. This is the absolute magic step. This is where you apply your active recall and spaced revision. You practice retrieving the information without looking. If you skip step 3, you're literally just leaving your files unsaved, waiting for your brain to delete them to save energy.
So, I want to leave you with a question to ask yourself the very next time you sit down at your desk. Are you just reading, or are you actually hitting the save button in your brain? It is definitely time to ditch passive studying and start actively building those permanent pathways in your mind. Implement spaced revisions, force yourself to use active recall, and just watch your retention absolutely skyrocket. And hey, if you found this breakdown helpful and want to keep optimizing how you learn, make sure to subscribe to Study with Muhammad Ali for more informative videos.